Welcome, fellow travelers out to sea. Let's talk about ayahuasca. Grandmama Aya, bro. So, it was 2011. I came into contact with the circle of American vegetalismo. And like most of my deep connections in the drug world, I made this connection in Seattle. At work, actually. So I had come back from Mexico. This is after I'd moved down to Mexico to work in the Ibogaine clinics. Everything kind of crashed and burned, and I went back to Seattle kind of with my tail between my legs with I had a good thing going. I had a good job in Seattle, right? There was this really cool mattress company. It was a mattress manufacturer owned by a really cool old hippie, essentially. And the majority of the people working at this place were touring musicians. And so we were all given the freedom to, go do something else with your life. You'll have a job here waiting for you. And so, most of my colleagues were touring musicians, and I had the gift of being around all these amazing musicians while, I was a touring drug enthusiast. So I was given the freedom to leave this job, go down to Mexico, work with Ibogaine, and come back. So one day, I'm in the showroom of this mattress manufacturer. It was a really cool spot. We were making bedding out of organic wool, coming from a mill out of California. We were using organic cotton batting out of Texas. Natural latex rubber, no toxic flame retardants. It was a cool gig. We were making beautiful bedding by hand. I was proud of it. It was a good thing. We got a lot of really cool customers. We catered to kind of the green hippie niche community in Seattle, which that's kind of what we all were in Seattle, right? So one day, have a young man come in the store, uh, about my age at the time, 30 or whatever, and fellow drug people can spot other drug people, right? Like, I can see someone from a block away. I shit you not. It just that radar, man. I got it. If someone is working with any type of drug, I can spot you, whether it's meth, heroin, psychedelics, and it doesn't even matter, your particular style of dress. I can just look you in your face, and there's a certain energy. Who knows? Maybe I'm going too deep with it, but you know what I'm talking about. If you're a drug cat, which you are if you're watching this, we spot each other, you know each other. Like, hey, what's up with this cat, right? So this guy came in. I could just tell his whole vibe. He had something going on. Now he had this hand-woven shoulder bag, right? And it had the Shabipo ayahuasca pattern sewn into it. And just his whole demeanor, I could tell he was, kind of a high-ranking psychedelic cat. And this guy was interested in buying a new mattress, and these weren't cheap beds, you know what I mean? Like, easily spend 3 grand on a nice mattress. We were building nice stuff. So I hit it off with this guy, and when it came to these beds, I really knew my stuff. I'd built them for years, and I came to know enough that I was working in the showroom, dealing with the general public, explaining, what we were doing. And I could just tell this guy had something going on, and we met a couple times. He bought a mattress, spent a decent amount of money, and because I had come back from Mexico upon working with Ibogaine, even though I'd left the clinics in Mexico and had gone wrong, I was still on fire for Ibogaine, and I was still telling Everybody and anybody who would listen. Hell, even if you didn't want to listen, I was telling you. And I was telling the customers in this mattress store about Ibogaine, man. You know, they're coming in, yeah, looking for a king-size mattress for me and my wife. Have you heard of Ibogaine, bro? It's a psychedelic from West Africa, man. And it fucking nips heroin addiction in the bud, bro. So let me tell you all about it. And then we'll get to the betting. I shit you not, man. Yeah, this store was great. So I could tell this customer I had something going on, right? He had his ayahuasca Shibibo hand woven bag. And like most of my good psychedelic connections, you know, it's not like this was made in any savvy manner. It was on the street. It was on the fucking street. You know, that's how all my real connections are made, are on the street. So I'm out in the parking lot loading up this dude's mattress. And he tells me that he's an acupuncturist. And I start explaining to him that I treat people with ibogaine that are getting off of heroin, and I could really use a good acupuncturist to assist in my illegal ibogaine operation. And he looks at me and tells me, well, I help organize ayahuasca ceremonies here in the Northwest. I'm like the man here in the Northwest that organizes these circles that are led by a man who spent a decade in the Amazonian rainforest learning how to work with ayahuasca and a whole range of other plants. You know, the diet or the dieta. And that's the thing about ayahuasca. It's not just drug taking. There's a whole ritual behind it. There's a whole diet. There's a whole intention, you know, to be done properly anyways. And I appreciated this. And I'd been aware of ayahuasca for years leading up to this. You know, I probably was aware of ayahuasca in the late 90s, back when nobody knew about it. Totally esoteric. You know, now it's cool. You know, you got fucking Gwyneth Paltrow talking about ayahuasca on her Goop fucking website, and it's a hip thing, right? Go heal your demons with Mama Aya, bro. It's pretty much household term at this point, which is really kind of insane. But I'd known about it for years, and I'd gone through Ibogaine. Hell, I'd gone through everything, right? And I was intimidated by ayahuasca. There was something in me that held a reverence and a respect and a healthy fear. There was something in me that just knew, don't play around with this shit, boy. You know, this is not a game. I respected the ritualization of drug taking, and had done my own extensive research into ayahuasca and the traditions of it in the excuse me, in the Amazon. So when I met this customer at the mattress store that told me he could get me on an email list for the circle, I gladly obliged. Looking back at my emails, I started getting emails for the circle in 2011. It was about May 2012 that I finally bit the bullet and signed up to do my first ayahuasca ceremony. Now, these were held at a rental, like a rental cabin out on Whidbey Island. And the email has a wealth of information regarding preparation leading up to this. For a week beforehand, you're not supposed to eat fermented stuff, no cheese, no wine. It's supposed to be a really heavy fast. You're not supposed to drink or smoke pot or do any drugs. You're not supposed to have sex. You're not even supposed to masturbate. You know, you're supposed to really discipline yourself and prepare for this thing with intention. So, real quick here, let me pull up this email I got. So there's a bunch of this that, you know, I'm not going to read because they don't want me to, but there's some of it that I feel I can read and it's not incriminating anybody. Greetings, first-time participants. And this was May 26, 2012. We are glad you can join us for the upcoming Sacred Medicine Retreat in June. Below, I have included all the information you will need to prepare and participate in the retreat. In order to confirm your reservation, I will need you to complete the following instructions. 1. Please read the retreat info all the way through. Once you have done so, please hit reply to confirm that you received and read all the information. 2. Please include a short biography about yourself, including education, work, if you have experienced this medicine before, or other plant medicines or psychedelics, why you wish to come to ceremony, and include any medical conditions and all medications that you take. This helps us to get to know you and meet your needs better. I must receive both the confirmation and the bio from you in order for you to participate in the event. Look forward to meeting you. Very important. If you are on antidepressant or any other medication, you must let me know immediately. It can be very dangerous to mix certain medications with this herbal medicine. Cancellation policy. There is a $400 deposit for this event. The deposit will become non-refundable 2 weeks before the event. Blah, blah, blah. So this wasn't cheap, right? This cost some money. So it was $800 if you do it for 3 days. And I believe I paid like $300 for just the single night. I never did the full 3-night sessions. I did 3 one-night sessions. And then for the women, they have guidelines for menstruation. According to the Shipibo tradition and the teachings of Don Guillermo, the time when a woman is on her menstrual cycle is not the most harmonious or productive time for working with the medicine ceremony. However, we understand that it is not always possible to predict when the moon cycle arrives, but please keep us informed if you think that you will be on your moon time during the retreat. Feel free to contact me with questions on this issue. Cancellation policy does not apply to issues of menstruation. Dietary guidelines. For 1 week prior and 1 week after the ceremony, we strongly recommend that you avoid alcohol and red meat, especially pork. We also recommend that you avoid sexual activity at least 3 days before the ceremony. If you are interested in having a deeper experience, you may want to eliminate all salt and sugar from your diet for 3 days before the ceremony, but this is optional. Because of the tyrosine interaction, which can cause headaches and nausea, it is also strongly recommended to avoid all foods aged and fermented, including miso, tempeh, cheeses, vinegar, smoked fish, and so forth. We also ask that you avoid any recreational drugs, including cannabis, for at least 1 week before the ceremony. Overall, keep your diet clean and light the week before. Minimize salt and sugar intake, especially the day of the ceremony. For the day of the ceremony, eat the restricted foods. For the day of the ceremony, avoid the restricted foods and eat a good breakfast and a light lunch and a light dinner. Please do not fast. Following all these guidelines and recommendations will minimize discomfort and help you and all of us to get the most out of the ceremony. And then intention. The ceremony is an amplifier for prayer and intention, and it is very helpful to focus on a specific intention for the ceremony. A simple, clear intention is the key to success. Some examples of the use of intention might be to have a deeper connection with spirit, God, or for a physical healing to take place. One could also ask for more love in your life, or for help from the medicine to be free of self-doubt, fear, or negativity, or whatever may be holding you back in your life. And, I'll stop there. So the guide has lived in Peru and has been studying vegetalismo, traditional Amazonian medicine, for over 15 years. He has studied in several traditions, notably the Quechua, Lamista, and Shipibo schools. He apprenticed for many years with Don Guillermo Aravelo, widely considered one of the greatest living practitioners of this medicine, the medicine. We use a traditional herbal medicine that comes from Peru. This medicine is a great teacher and healer. She teaches each in a different way. Blah, blah, blah. If you're here, you probably know all this stuff. But, the point is these people take it seriously, right? And I respected that. This wasn't just a willy-nilly thing. And I'd been getting these invites for a year before I finally felt like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Because I was scared. But I had gone through Ibogaine, and had gotten that freedom from the addiction to some extent, but it was starting to creep back in, right? I'm chipping, I'm doing dope from time to time, I'm partying, but then I'm also Mr. Ibogaine. And so I thought maybe this ayahuasca can get me the healing that I've tried to get from everywhere else that I just can't get. Maybe I need some more hardcore psychedelic drugs, right? And that's exactly what I did. So I signed up for the one night session and I adhered to the dieta um, pretty damn well. The week leading up to that, I remember it was a struggle to not drink at all, to not smoke weed, did the fast, cut a whole lot of foods out of my diet, and really put a lot of attention into that intention. Please just remove this addiction from me for God's sakes that I continue to struggle with no matter what I do. And at the time, I'm working at the mattress store and I'm living with some buddies I met at the community college. I'm not living with my girlfriend at the time. And, it was a big deal. I scheduled a couple days off of work to go do this thing. Everyone at work knew that, like, oh, Ian's going down the rabbit hole again. First it was the acid and then the ibogaine. And now he's going to do ayahuasca. Here we go again. So I take a ferry over to Whidbey Island and follow the map and get off the highway up a little dirt road, and I'm up in the woods, and it's this beautiful little cabin. It's 2 stories, it's round, and the the base floor has a kitchen and just kind of a hangout area, but the top floor, it's just open floor space, right? And there's like a windows up in the roof, and it's built for like meditation and psychedelic experiences, essentially. The people who own this land established it for meditation and seeking and new age stuff. And you know uh, the woman who bought the property died of cancer, like in this place we were at, and her spirit was still there or whatever. There was pictures of her everywhere. A little strange, but I could tell right away. So it was me and like 10 other people or so. We were really packed into this space, and we were informed that this is probably going to be rough, probably going to get sick. I understood that ayahuasca is a physical thing. It's likely you're going to be puking, possibly even crapping yourself, and they made us aware of that. And it seemed like they did a good job of having help. They had, so it was the main guy, right, that had been down in the Amazon for like a decade, and it just so turns out that he was a junkie at one point. He was addicted to heroin and cocaine. The guy was from Europe. He had gotten clean in the Amazon, stayed there for a long time, learning how to work with these plants. And so when we went around the circle talking about our intention, I brought up the fact that I've been dealing with this horrendous addiction for a long time. And everyone was there, you know, dealing with some stuff. No one was doing this for fun, right? Like, there were some really stable people that were medical professionals. There was like a therapist, there was an acupuncturist. The partner of the man leading the session was a naturopathic doctor. There was like students of this school of natural medicine that's in the Northwest. So these were professionals, and it was healthy people who wanted to be healthier and have a deeper understanding of themselves and this existence. And then there were people that, had heavy stuff going on that were trying to heal themselves. So this was no joke, and it was not taken lightly. And Yeah, you know, so we're all in a circle. We're all in a circle, right? And we all have like a puke bucket. You know, we wait till it's night. It's night. It's dark. And this man who's leading the ceremony, you know, he's singing these very unique like guttural shabipo songs. There's a very unique specific form of singing that usually accompanies these Peruvian ayahuasca sessions, and this man seemed to have it down pretty good. Now, within a half an hour of drinking this stuff, and it's like a deep reddish brown liquid. I didn't think it tasted all that bad, but I'm no stranger to bombing on bitter alkaloids and drugs. You know, I just remember by the time it hit me and everyone else, probably an hour in, I felt like it was a plane crash. I felt like it was the first episode of Lost, you know, where Jack comes to and the plane's on fire and it's just this chaos. It was like that. There was a dude like screaming for his life and they were assisting with him. And then there's people just retching, puking and cancer. Ah! 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 Like loud retching and puking. And then there's a woman on either side of me, right? To my right and my left, that are both just crying, like bawling. And I'm there thinking to myself, my God, man, this is the most horrific experience I have ever had in my life. It was the most uncomfortable experience I've ever fucking had. I shit you not. It was like a fucking plane wreck. And so I've been through enough psychedelics that I know, you know, it's not going to get any better if I get up and go over there, right? Like, I just gotta stay put, keep breathing, and get through this. It's not going to help me to get up and try to go somewhere else. There's nowhere to go, there's no escape, right? Just stay down. And you know, luckily I'm not much of a puker. I got a strong gut and I have a phobia of vomiting. So that's part of why I was so afraid of doing this is that I just hate throwing up. I have a phobia of it, let alone to be losing yourself on psychedelics and having to deal with nausea and vomiting. I'm I hate it. And so that's really what kept me from doing this for so long, to be totally honest. I didn't have to deal with much of that. I more had diarrhea. I had to keep getting down to the bathroom, and we had to get down this like winding staircase to get down to this bathroom, right? So probably like 4 hours go by of pure hell, and the only visions I'm having are somewhat DMT like. So the ayahuasca, I didn't find it to be anything at all like the 5-MeO DMT that I've smoked before, where it's just a white light and death, spiritual release. There was some affinity for the NN DMT experience, just the patterns and the kind of insectoid buzz and that whole vibe. There was a little bit of that going on with the ayahuasca, but it stretched in a different way, and there was a different presence to it that I guess those harmaline compounds bring out of it that are usually not there. But it was very insectoid and very threatening. It's like I was being assaulted by these mechanical insects. And this whole mechanical insect thing, I don't know if this just comes from the fact that I've read Terrence McKenna's stuff and he explains the whole mechanical insectoid thing with the DMT, or if this really is just a common trait that people tend to see with DMT and sometimes ayahuasca, the whole mechanical insectoid thing. And so there was that going on, and it was just painful and annoying and uncomfortable. And it got to the point where I started to feel sorry for myself. And it's like, God damn, man, why can't I just experience something beautiful? Like, why do I have to experience this, man? Just pure hell. And it's when I started to feel sorry for myself that the threatening mechanical insects started to retreat, and light started to shine through the darkness. And through feeling sorry for myself, I saw that this is a mechanism I've had since I was a very small child. Feeling sorry for myself and hoping that other people will feel sorry for me. Trying to make people feel sorry for me. And yeah, it went really far back. And I remember I sat up and I felt strong. I felt powerful. And I felt at peace. And right about this time, the man who was leading the ceremony, he had been dealing with each person one-on-one, blowing smoke on them with these tobacco cigarettes he had, these mapachos, um, lightly touching us and singing to us. And it was right when he brought me up to him that he blew this smoke on me and started singing to me, and he touched my face. And I went back to my grandparents' house in Ajo, Arizona. I came down from space. It was black and I can see the stars. And I shoot down and I see this tiny house sparkling in the middle of nowhere in the desert, 40 miles from the Mexican border, old copper mining town. And I shoot down into this house and I'm in my grandma's arms. She used to give me a bird bath in the kitchen sink. She'd give me a bath in the sink. And then she'd wrap me in a blanket and carry me to this rocking chair that was by a window. And she would rock me while I was wrapped in a towel and sing to me. And those memories came back. That's what ayahuasca did for me. It took me back to that place of my grandma giving me a bird bath in the kitchen sink, wrapping me in a blanket, rocking me in a chair and singing to me with unconditional love. It took me back to that place of unconditional love. And the next morning, I'm able to drive a car, I'm 100% back, but nature makes sense, you know. I mean, I'm always kind of hallucinating, right, from all this shit I've done. But the hallucinations made sense now, you know. When I'm looking at the woods and trees, everything's always kind of moving a little bit, right? But in this case, it was in sync and it made sense and it wasn't chaotic anymore. And I was able to drive back to my house. And for about 3 months afterward, I was at peace and taking care of myself was easy. I got up in the morning and I ate healthy food and I went and ran through the woods and sat quietly by this creek that was not far from my house, and I was able to see the patterns within nature and the water flowing, and it was all at peace and made sense. And I was at peace and made sense. And being healthy was easy. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't smoking weed. I was able to communicate with my girlfriend effectively. And so, of course, you know, I tell everybody I know, you got to do ayahuasca, man. You better meet Mama Aya. You want some healing. You want to be, you know, on that wavelength. You better cough up some cash and go out to the island and, you know, meet Mama Aya. So, you know, about 3 months go on, I'm healthy, but I'm still in Seattle and I'm still wrapped up in the underworld of drugs, and I'm still treating people with ibogaine, and you know, I still have drug dealers as friends because this has been my life for so long. In Seattle, I know every corner of the city, and unfortunately every corner of the city is wrought with drugs. So I start slipping back. And I treat a young man with ibogaine in a hotel room. we set it up so we got the hotel next to this hospital, next to the ER in downtown Seattle. This young man's getting ready to go to prison. We're giving him a treatment right before prison. And we get back to the hotel. I can tell something's off, right? So I managed to get this kid in the bathtub so I can kind of look through his stuff. Well, turns out he's got like 4 grams of meth and like a bunch of benzos. He's got a bunch of 1 milligram Xanax footballs and 2 milligram Klonopins. Uh, he's got a bunch of heroin too. He's got a few types of pure, really strong. This is when they were first putting fentanyl in the heroin. 2011, 2012. They were calling it pure. There was the old school tar, but then there was the pure. And so this kid had like 4 grams of the old school, just whatever tar that was like $60 a ball. But then there's the pure that was $100 a gram. And this is the shit that you take a couple of hits off foil and you're nodded off. This was new, right? Before we knew it was fentanyl, it was pure. We thought it was just stronger tar. So anyways, this treatment goes rough. I come to find this kid's got a bunch of drugs in his system. He hasn't been honest with me. We go to Rite Aid and get a UA. It's like, God damn it. I can't give this kid a flood dose of Ibogaine with the meth and heroin in his system. So I at least know there's no more drugs on him, right? Wait till the morning, get him to another place. End up getting him a lower dose of Ibogaine. Just enough to take the edge off and to get him to prison. And there I am with this knot of dope, right? And I also charged, I got like $2,000 for the Ibogaine treatment, right? And so I'm balling. It's like the most money I've ever had. I got a job, I got a couple grand in my pocket, and I got a bunch of dope. And I also was scheduled to do my second ayahuasca ceremony. And so this whole Ibogaine treatment where I ended up with all these drugs happened like a week before the second ayahuasca ceremony. So I'd been eating a bunch of benzos and smoking tar. I remember I flushed the 4 grams of meth down the toilet because I've just never been a meth guy. But I went to this ayahuasca session and I was numb on benzos and, it did nothing for me. I kind of got some patterns and I went home and that was it. I did not adhere to the dieta. I'd been doing a bunch of dope leading up to this, wiling out, falling apart, trying to treat other people with Ibogaine, And so that second time I did not get the benefits that I got from the first one at all. And so, of course, a couple months go by and I schedule another one. But this time, I take 4 other people with me. One is my girlfriend. The second is another young woman who's, she's a massage therapist, natural healer. She's been wanting to do it. She has her friend, and then I got another junkie buddy. So I bring 4 people along to this ayahuasca session. And leading up to this, I'd been holding it together the best I could, but I'm still looking for salvation, right? I'm still looking for healing. I'm still looking for that 3 months of peace and bliss I had after that first ayahuasca session that is promised, Why did that go away? I guess I have to keep doing the drugs. And also I've come to, be told, well, Ian, you keep just doing the single nights. You should probably be doing the full 3-day deal. It's like, dude, I'm not rich. I don't have $800 to drop on 3 days of ayahuasca. I can muster up the 3 bills for the single night, right? And so this third one where I bring these 4 people with me, I can't just focus on myself in my ayahuasca session. I'm worried about my girlfriend and all these people I brought with me. The junkie buddy, he's on some shit and it was just stressful, right? I'm worried about everyone I'm with. I feel responsible for them. And my girlfriend, she's a hardhead, right? And she doesn't mess with psychedelics, so she's fighting this thing. As soon as the Aya starts to hit, she gets up and bounces from the circle, goes outside, smokes a cigarette, tries to fight it, right? Goes downstairs. She tells me later on that when she went outside, she saw a woman dressed in all white who came out of the woods and came up to her and started talking to her and then vanished in the thin air. You know, and after she told me that, it's like, oh, that was Mama Aya. That was Grandmama Aya. That was it, bro. Thinking about it now, it's like, Jesus, sounds like a fucking horror film. A woman dressed in white floating out of the woods that vanishes before your eyes. Like, Jesus Christ, what are we playing with here? So, after this session, it was the opposite of what I got from the first one. For like 2, 3 months afterwards, I felt off. I was out of balance, like off, like it damaged me. It did something wrong. And the only thing I got during the ayahuasca session, other than the threatening mechanical insects attacking me, was a very clear message. Boy, get the fuck out of here. Why do you keep coming back here? What are you doing? You know, you got what you asked for the first time. Now you keep fucking knocking. Stop playing, kid. Like, it straight bitch slapped me, right? Like, I got a very clear message. Do not come back here, boy. Like, do not. And, you know, when I asked, well, what about the 3-day? It's like, nope. You little fuck, do not come back. So it's like, all right, you know, I went into Aya with a healthy fear for it, and I have come out of it with a healthy fear for it. And, you know, what's interesting, that first time when I came to that point, when I started to feel sorry for myself and saw that, oh, wow, this old feel sorry for me game that goes way, way back. You know, I saw myself, like, at this new school in grade school, off by myself, like, hoping kids would feel sorry for me, right? Like, come up and talk to me. This whole feel sorry for me mechanism. And then once I acknowledged that and went back to that place of unconditional love and just that light, just that pure light beaming, when I pray, you know, when I sit and get quiet and pray, that light is still there. You know, what that first ayahuasca session showed me, that white light of unconditional love, when I get quiet and pray, it's still there. So there was something beneficial, I guess, but that third time really threw a wrench, and it, man, I don't know. You know, I think you really are opening yourself up to being very vulnerable when you're taking these types of drugs and medicines, and there is a spiritual component to it. And so this third session where I brought my girlfriend, I brought 4 people, you know, it was sloppy, right? It wasn't as tight as the first 2 where there was like plenty of help. And, you know, I felt like this one was sloppy. Like, my girlfriend was struggling. I'm downstairs being sick. You know, I'm having to like go get help for her. It was a disaster. It was like a plane wreck, you know? And they had told me that, hey, if you hadn't made it so you'd brought all 4 of these people, we were going to cancel it because it wasn't enough people to make it profitable. So, you know, people are renting this fucking cabin for a few $100 a night, making a pot of soup, and ayahuasca doesn't cost shit, you know, ship it in from South America. And I mean, these guys are making thousands of dollars a night. You know, it's more than I ever made selling any kind of drugs. So these, you know, medicine people and healers, it's a profitable thing, you know. And this guy had a whole national fucking syndicate. You know, there was the Northwest organizer and the East Coast organizer, and this guy's jet setting all over the place, walloping people with ayahuasca. And, you know, a lot of the people organizing it and the assistants that were going to the School of Natural Medicine, all of their intentions were good, right? Like, they truly thought that they were helping people heal from deep trauma and really messed up things, and that this was looking out for your own health. And as time went on and I kind of left the Aya circle, You know, I come to find a lot of the people who were assisting or organizing also decided, gonna leave this behind, man. You know, how many times am I gonna make myself deathly ill with this primitive psychedelic? And it's, you know, we're at such a weird point in history where we're in these like developed nations and we feel so lost and disconnected that we're going back to these super primitive ways and traditions and convincing ourselves that it's on this pedestal and so much greater than what we have at our fingertips. It's like, I'm sorry, you go and look at how some of these primitive people are living in the Amazon. It's pretty fucking brutal, you know. Just because people are taking ayahuasca does not mean that they're enlightened, you know, feminists. So man, I don't know. You know, this I did 3 of these sessions. By the time I did the 3rd one, it gave me a clear message. Don't come back here, boy. You are not welcome. Beat it. You know, I ended up telling the guy who organized it, dude, it's been 2 months. I feel off ever since then. He didn't know what to tell me. He's like, well, it's not supposed to work like that. You know, I don't know what to say. And again, it's like these psychedelics are unpredictable at best, you know. So anyways, you know, it's been well over 10 years since I've taken ayahuasca. I have no plans to take it again or any of these psychedelics for that matter. I've already been blasted out to the nether regions of the astral plane and turned into the deepest possible narcissist you can be because of that. Because I've met Grandmama. Have you, bro? Have you? Ride the snake, brother. Gotta try to fucking laugh at some of this stuff sometimes, alright? You know, life is fucking hard. What can I say? I got this new reverse delay, man.